One, Canada's terror threat level just raised for the first time in 4 years. More details as they come in. This is news on the Blaze Radio Network.
If you or someone you know is addicted to drugs or alcohol, please write down this number, 1-800-426-6186. That's 1-800-426-6186. By calling Aid in Recovery for help with drug and alcohol addiction, you can turn your life around. Our advisors are ready to match you with a proven treatment center that will end your drug or alcohol addiction once and for all. Your future is a bright place. Don't waste any more time making friends and family worry about you. When you call right now, you'll speak to an expert advisor who understands what you're going through. We can help you break your addiction to drugs and alcohol before it's too late. This call is completely confidential, and if you have private insurance, there'll be little to no cost to you. Take control of your life now. Make the one call count. 1-800-426-6186. That's 1-800-426-6186. 1-800-426-6186. 1-800-426-6186.
Attention homeowners. I'm Jay Farner, president of Quicken Loans, and I have some important information for you regarding the U.S. government's Home Affordable Refinance Program, or HARP. We've told you about HARP in the past, and more than 3 million homeowners have already taken advantage of this money-saving program. But there are so many more of you who could be saving hundreds of dollars every month on your mortgage. And Quicken Loans is here to help you save your money. The home loan experts at Quicken Loans fully understand the HARP guidelines. If you weren't HARP eligible in the past, new guidelines could mean that now you are. Give us a call and we'll give you a Quicken Loans mortgage review. It's simple and easy. And for 4 years in a row now, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Call 800-QUICKEN. That's 800-QUICKEN. Or go to QuickenLoans.com for a mortgage experience that's engineered to amaze.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Payment example excludes taxes and insurance costs. For cost information, equalizing lender license in all 50 states and MLS number 30.
On a mission given to me by Woody Shaw, Sunship, Dizzy, and John Kahn, dedicated to pursuing a piece of our cultural heritage through interviews with my music heroes, this is The Jake Feinberg Show.
On three, y'all come on in. When I say three, I want everybody to come back on because I didn't fall down yet. See, I faked y'all out. I just bent my knees. But I'm a good God in the alley with Sally. Good God, get down on the bad back, on the good back. Get up on the good foot, bad back. I love you more than I do myself. I think in the alley. Three. Good God. Can't keep a good man down. Good God. Some people say I can't do the duck.
Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace at 2919 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show on Power Talk 1210. Thank you so much for being part of our program today. My show revolves around the 4 L's. Leadership, love, life, and lineage, and the ongoing story of real music made by real artists. Rat on, rat on, rat on. My guest is not himself these days, because if he was, he would be settling into the latter stages of life, winding down and having his larger family contingent pick up where he left off. But that's not how this chapter is being written. My guest today is performing at a prolific clip, crisscrossing the country in an effort to be a link in the chain. It could be doing the Hickey Burr with Cleveland Eaton, raising money for Miles College in Alabama or any black college that supports education. It could be spoofing Barry White or Jimmy James Brown while Melvin Wawa Reagan lays down those whammy bar hits. But really, my guest continues on in this host's mind because he still wants people to find their true nature, go towards their strengths, and be fearless, because my guest is fearless. He is a believer in humanity and helping those get ahead, thinking on the spot during the original jam sessions with Quincy Jones and Ray Brown, locking the groove with Monty Alexander. Or maybe it was the time when Bobby Porter Hall was living at home with her mother in Detroit, 17 years old, when my guest invited her out to Vegas and eventually Los Angeles to open up for him. It's the humanity shown to him back when he was slinging drinks at a local Philly bar during the burgeoning folk scene. And to this day, my guest is still showing up at the Newport Folk Festival, doing renditions of the car song. He developed his comedy chops around the magical hard bop of the times, fluting the blues with James Moody, playing Bag's Groove with Milt Jackson, or bebopping with Dizzy Gillespie, Eddie Bongo Brown, and Mary Lou Williams. He pushed people out of their comfort zone to get the most out of them, like the Latin cat Johnny Pacheco or the organ grinder Richard Groove Holmes, who showed up on the comedy skits and sitcoms. Charles Lloyd called my show a search of inner life. Dozens of musicians have told me that I changed their life because I rediscovered relic vinyl they were on, that they themselves had given up on as little more than a moment in time. For them to come around to the notion that their music put me on my trip is a revelation, or rather, a love supreme. Dr. Bill Cosby, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
I have a problem.
What's that?
I was in the bathroom in New York City, and getting ready to put myself together to go down and have some breakfast. Floors down. I'm listening to WBGO, and comes on a song similar to the feel that I want, because I think I'm going to have a television show on NBC, and I've already set up my character to be a retired professor of humanities, 70-some years old, and his wife, who is 70-something, and she too is a graduate of college. She's retiring, but not really. She still does things out in the neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera. And I have a daughter, two daughters and a son. And then we have the grandchildren, and that plays into the generation. Ben Webster and Art Tatum. The song is I Can't Believe That You're in Love with Me. And I hear the similarity of what I want for my theme song. Because it's brushes, and the piano player is Art Tatum. I don't know this. I just know that it's a ballad, and there's Webster playing the air and the note. And I said, that's what I want. That's what I want. I don't want the song, but I want the feel. The feel and I want the feel for the theme song. I don't want Horace Height. I don't want Guy Lombardo. I don't want Paul Whiteman.
Right.
I want Ben and Art. Now, one time player, a pianist in a recording studio working, and I said, look, man, if you could just do this in this break, and I tried not to tell him what to play, and he did the break in it, and he played. I said, no. I said, in there, you know, I want. And we did it again, and I said, no, that's not it. There's too many notes in there. Just listen and slide yourself into it. And we did it, and it was wrong the third time. So I'm really fighting to keep from telling him. So the closest I came was, I said, you know, make the break and what you play like, and then I named the piano player. And the guy turned around, and his feelings were hurt. Mm-hmm. He was very funny. He said, man, if I could play like that, I wouldn't be in this studio now. So I need you to have your guys find that for me and send it to me so that I can play it for my band as we record the theme song for my show coming on NBC, because nobody can reject the feel of Coleman Hawkins' body and soul. Nobody can reject the feel of Ben Webster and Art Tatum. I can't believe that you're in love with me. And it really is going to be a wonderful, wonderful time laying this down. And, of course, with the musicians, Craig Handy is going to be my musical director, because Craig and I work beautifully together. I'll say to Craig, this is what I want in here. As a matter of fact, in the Cosby Mysteries, which was only 18 shows for NBC, we scored. Mogu Miller was in the studio, and Smitty Schmidt was on the drums, and he was sitting there watching. I score as I watch the completed edit, and I said, Mogu, and then he's sitting in the recording room. Yeah, I said, take a look at this. He said, yeah. I said, do rhythm changes, but take them up the steps, all right? And so he looked at it. He said, got it. I said, just rhythm changes. Go. And, man, he ripped it off. I said, okay, cut. Perfect. And I said, Mercury Miller. He said, I would like to keep that name. He was absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
I love myself more than I love myself. That was off an album, Rat On, 1977, and you were doing just your own impersonations of different, individualists and artists. And I wanted to ask, how many takes did it take you to do that? I've been cracking up listening to that thing, especially when you said 3, and then all of a sudden, Wayne Jackson, Stu Gardner brought him in. How many takes did it take you to do that that James Brown spoof?
One.
Yes, one.
One. And what Stu did was add the band. I have a 9-minute version of that. This afternoon, there are some people coming who don't understand what I want, and they want to see me present it to them so that then they can say no to whether they understand and want to do it.
Exactly.
It is the 9-minute version of this, and what I've done is I have added to this, when I say 75, I want the band in on 75. It says 75. And then we went to the library of the European classical symphonies and came up with my voice is, sing to me the groove or something.
Yeah.
But now, when I play this for today's people, it makes me angry, man.
Yeah.
Because I like people to watch and be quiet and listen and be quiet. And they're going, who is the drummer? I said, listen. But listen to the drummer. No. Just listen, man. They are so excited. Then there's a guy, man, that bass player is walking. But, I mean, will you please shut up and listen? So that's the toughest part of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I smile about the piece because when I was playing the Apollo, a fellow came up to me. I don't know if I told you this story. Said, James Brown wants to see you. And I said, yes, send James up. So James came up. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to talk with James Brown.
No, I know, never.
Okay, good, because you can find a lot of people who had conversation, and to this day, they still don't know what James said.
Yeah, no, I know that.
And James said to me, I think that not only did he approve of it, but it's the best version of him he's ever heard. I mean, because there was no sense for me when I decided to do it. No sense trying to sound like James, but to take the style of James and put it there.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, look, Stu Gardner was, in fact, pretty close to understanding what I meant. And he did his darndest to give me what I wanted. And whatever our time is now, I think back then was what we wanted to do. The guys really didn't. We didn't get enough in playing it. Because I'm telling you, man, when people say something to me about that particular LP, the ones who have it and love it, it's really, they really give me warm puppy feelings, man, about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's genuine, and I just want to say something to you. I just feel like you did your best impressions of those cats, and those cats, but you were able to do it, and those guys were secure enough to deal with it. And to me, it was just to know that you did that in one take. When you started to cook on the good foot, on the bad back, on the bad knee. I mean, it's brilliant stuff, and it's totally.
Yeah, but wait, let me have this with you. Let me tell you how you get one. So the guy says, can I do the dog can I do this? See,
The duck.
automatically, man, I went into James Brown, who somewhere left the band. He's on stage. I'm figuring this guy is on stage and the band is still, and he does not have to worry about where they are. And they don't do it. So he can leave them and call and say, Tim! Tim! No, I don't see Horace Height searching. I don't see somebody looking for Bud Shank in the Bud! I know that Monk calls for Coltrane.
Right.
But I just don't. So then, I'm out there. I'm out there, and I do the duck, and then there's quack quack.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Quack quack. You drop that on them. Then we went to the dog, and then in the ad lib, which means even the ad-libber doesn't know where he's going. You understand?
Absolutely.
Do the elephant. And I opened my mouth hoping something would come out. I'm on the free zone I'm hoping to get beamed or something. And the thing says, what other sound? And then I quickly said, wait a minute, I think it's the wrong animal. And that's how you got that.
Right, exactly.
There's nothing planned there. Yeah. Something like that for the elephant. Wait a minute, I think it's the wrong animal. But to keep calling that drummer Nate, and that cat kicked. I mean, he kicked.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Smoking drummer, but yet he still was struggling to get what you needed.
Oh please, we were right there, and I wrote the song with my mouth. I said, we just want to keep a kind of keep that tinny sound, and the bass line don't change, don't modulate a bit. And you just keep it, and then of course, so I want the band in on 3.
3!
And then from, the humor of from out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
How long have they been sitting there waiting to play?
Exactly. No, you've hit on...
How long has that whole orchestra been sitting there waiting to play? So James, and the other thing which is thought out was 1 and 3. Music of rhythm and blues is 2 and 4. 3 is Presbyterian.
Right. So you were on 1 and 3, which was that when reggae became very popular in the 70s. It was on the 1 and 3.
Oh. I still don't know the words to Who Shot the Sheriff.
Yeah, Get Up, Stand Up, I didn't know either until I actually heard him from another dude. And then, hey, you've hit on some, can you finish the James Brown story? He wanted to see you at the Apollo? What was that interaction?
No, he told me the way James Brown talks, that this was the best. This was the best imitation of him. and I understood that it wasn't the one that, imitating his voice, but clearly, whatever is the relationship that he with the band, that's it. Because certainly the song was not one of his songs. Now I'll tell you, in the Barry White thing,
Mm-hmm.
there are certain moments that I love myself better than I love myself. And that's, I don't know what the song is, but I was out there ad-libbing. And mama, and so forth. And all of a sudden, I get beamed, and it says, sing. And I made up this voice, I'm telling you, everybody behind the glass disappeared. Because the sound that I wanted to make for this guy singing, I wanted it to really be, please don't sing anymore. Just talk to me.
Talking to Dr. Bill Cosby here on Power Talk 1210. And, Mr. Cosby, since the last time we spoke almost 2 years ago, I've had some extremely serendipitous conversations with certain artists. And so we have a game on this program called Name That Tune. But in this case, it's going to be Name That Person. I want you to take a listen to this audio clip and then come back. I'd like to get your thoughts on it, okay?
Deal.
Bill opened for me. The first gig he ever played in New York was in the Gaslight, yes. We were good friends for a while there, but I haven't seen much lately. I saw Bill about 2 years ago at Newport, and he introduced me on stage by doing an imitation of how I sang. I think it was a Woody Guthrie car song. He did an imitation of me singing the car song.
Oh, my.
Which he remembered from being in the Gaslight back when he first came to New York, and I don't know what year that was. Must have been 1963 or 4.
The crowd must have been Can you impersonate that?
Oh, no, I couldn't impersonate that now, right now. So you're just to be clear, Cosby opened for you at the Gas. His first stand-up show was, and he opened for you. His first gig in New York. I saw Bill just a little while before that in a bar down in Philadelphia where he was bartending and telling stories. And somebody said, "You got to go downstairs in that little place there in the corner, and there's a guy in there named Cosby who is a bartender, and he is a very funny storyteller. Go see him." So I went down in there. I had my guitar with me, and Bill invited me to play a few songs. And I got behind the bar and used Bill's microphone. And as I was playing, I heard another guitar right through the wall from the next door bar. And I recognized the guitar player. It was one of my very favorite guitar players. All right, Dr. Cosby, can you do an impersonation of Woody Guthrie's car song at the Newport Folk Festival?
Well, first of all, it's Ramblin' Jack.
That's Ramblin' Jack Elliott. That's exactly right.
And Ramblin' Jack, it was called Ramblin' Jack because he would get up there. Jack had the kind of nose that was thin and went out, and then he had the cowboy hat, like a Wyoming cowboy hat, and he had the microphone, and the nose would be about a half inch, and he'd stand there and he'd damn near put you to sleep. And this is the Gaslight Coffee House 116 McDougal Street, and is selling all these. This is 63 frappes and things with machines going in the back room, and then they half a pound of whipped cream, and then put a cinnamon stick in the thing and sprinkle powdered chocolate. And Jack would start to talk about this is Woody Guthrie and the Dust Bowl and so forth and so on. He go on about hey, for a ride in the car, take no ride in the car. We're going for a ride in the car, ride in the car. Beep, beep, going in the car, and I just sat, man, because my job is to come on after he leaves. And, I mean, Jack could play, but I really, folk music for me, unless you were Odetta, with that kind of power.
Right.
And then we also had a fellow named Lynn Chandler from, I think he might have been Canton, Ohio or something. He was strong. And I also worked with Tom Paxton. They brought all those people into the gas light and and all I did was come on after them. Worked from 8 till 4 in the morning. And Jack I hadn't seen. I remember the most wonderful girlfriend he had. And they traveled in 1963 all states in that horrible brownish green, but stronger green than brown, Bell telephone truck. I don't know if you ever remember that.
No, but I can only imagine.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can get a picture of it from somewhere, and it's just a horrible color. And that's how they traveled around with Jack singing, being booked and singing and driving. And she was bouncy and wonderful, and I forget her name. And she came down, and there's Shel Silverstein. And Shel Silverstein and I are hanging out, because after I get off with certain people that and I knew it was time to come back to work, and the two of them came over, and they said, we're going to get married, and I was so happy, and I hugged it, because they're not married, they're traveling all around, and Ramlin Jack going to get married. I think her name might have been Patty. And she's just a bouncy, wonderful, young, very attractive lady. And Shel was the best man, I think. Wow. The best man. And they did it at City Hall. Came back, and I don't know what kind of party they had, champagne in those days. I don't even know if Jack smoked anything. Just stayed sleepy naturally. And
yeah, right.
Word came back, man, 3 months later that Patty divorced Jack. And about sometime later, Patty came down to the gaslight. And I said, hey, Pat. She said, oh, Bill, how are you? I said, I'm fine. And I said, what happened to you and Jack? She said, I just couldn't take it anymore. I said, no, but you rode all around for 3 years in that telephone truck. And she said, but we were single then, Bill. Then we got married.
within 3
But
months.
he's a because who unto all history of this music, I was listening to a recording, man, of George Wein singing Just a Gigolo. And I'm telling everybody, after you edit all this stuff, man, that there's nobody on the face of this earth who, as a producer, an entrepreneur, a singer, I'm talking about whether you are Barnum and Bailey or whether you're Colonel Parker or whomever it is you're known for with major stars, there is nobody who can match what George Wein did for many of the people in this business. And I'm not talking about loaning them money or paying off their hospital bills or anything. I'm talking about a guy who, if you wanted to say he loved the music, he couldn't have been a star, but he stayed and he was true to those musicians who founded, invented, and carried their art form. They may not have been business people at all.
Mm-hmm.
And they may not have cared that they charged George $800 and they only drew $200 worth of business. I still want my money, George. And George, as far as I know, George paid him. I've never heard a musician say, you know, George shorted me. And that kind of life. And then to turn around, man, and in the 80s, in Simier, George books this whole place in the city. I'm losing the name. But and Simier is this park, and it's like 8 days of just a celebration of the music. And yes, I would imagine there are some artists who will not work for George because the money they want is so forth and so on. That's up to whatever. But to know this Wein fellow and the things that he put together, and everybody's going to have enemies. You read about Jesus, and he sat with some cats.
You darn right he did.
In his band.
Mm-hmm.
who did him in.
Mm-hmm.
But the beauty of who George Wein is and who his wife, Joyce, was to the musicians, to the people, their understanding. And for this man to be at the piano, and when you listen to him play, he deserves to be there. He deserves to be there. This is not somebody who's, I'll pay you. No, he deserves to be there. And to listen to that voice, his favorite song, I think, Just a Gigolo. And one night we were at Carnegie Hall, and George came out, and it was the first time he played, and then he sang. And it was the first time I ever saw him singing this Just a Gigolo. And I couldn't even pay attention to what was going on because I couldn't believe. And when he got up and walked off, and I said to the audience, as only a comedian can, there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. a 5'6" Jew with a 46 waistline singing Just a Gigolo. And the people went crazy. But you know what, man?
Mm-hmm.
He sang it. And when you play it, and there's a recording, not of necessarily the Carnegie Hall thing, but when you play it, that voice is there, and the control is there, and he's as serious as can be, and the listener does not have to inflate the grade.
It stands on its own, just on its own.
Oh yes,
mm-hmm.
Oh yes.
That's enlightening to me. I did not know he belted that. That's really. I mean, there are other cats that play into. I mean, do you consider someone? Can you talk about the first Playboy Club that you entered, and then how you think Hugh Hefner falls into that category as well, as far as giving artists the opportunity, especially black artists and black patrons, to enjoy their art form?
A picture of Hugh Hefner is one that says there's a lot of good stuff you know nothing about. I mean, that's to talk to and wave your hand broadly. You may not care for the cinephobe, et cetera, One of my jokes was, I would like to thank Playboy for doing what National Geographic didn't have the guts to do. And all of his life, Hugh Hefner has stood for that liberal voice. But also, man, I have never, ever seen him tremble or stumble. If his thoughts, his ideals were ever attacked. I've always seen him sound like an honest man, not asking forgiveness from anything, but just that you understand what his side is, and you don't have to forgive him. And you can continue on your yeah buts if you want to. I have never seen anything or anybody. And I've read things where people have told lies about him, but the things, the truth that I love about him is that there are things that nobody knows where help came from. And it was never asked that his name be mentioned, and it wasn't because he feared repercussions. It was because that's what he wants to do. And to be able to have his differences in the music, because Alvin's not going to sit there and be a big fan of Dexter Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
But he would show up for Artie Shaw. He would show up for Stan Kenton. You know, he might show up.
How about Big Cleve Eaton and you with the Basie band? Would he show up for that? yeah, and so but to get back to that club, right? Yeah,
the club stands for Missouri, and you can't be in here because we don't want these Negroes in here. Then there's no club.
Right.
Okay, we'll find it. Okay. Because greedy people can always be swayed. They have to be watched when it comes to the count, but they can always be swayed.
You said Missouri. Is that for Emmett Till? Why did you bring Missouri up?
No, Missouri, like a St. Louis, to put a club in St. Louis.
I see. Okay.
In a city.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, no, this is segregated.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have integration here. Well, then there's no club.
Right. He also seemed, he was like you said, he said his unspoken mantra was, there's a lot out there that you don't know about, and I want you to dig that. I want you to dig it. I mean, he would put it in your... See, I mean, I'm talking about just the way we went back with Ramblin' Jack. It's like Bill Cosby developing his chops in a bar. Hugh Hefner, we know him now to be what he is today, but back then, I mean, what a beautiful... Similar to Smokey Robinson. I mean, you guys were all part of that team. But to see someone like Hefner as fearless at that time when he was vulnerable must have been completely invigorating. And obviously, you know.
Well, I don't know if he was vulnerable, man, because, see, the magazine spoke.
Mm-hmm.
When you see the style, when you see the music, he didn't decide that he was going to stay with rock and roll or whatever. He went with Benny Goodman. He went with Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald. He went with quote-unquote people who were playing the Empire Room, I think it is, in Chicago, and then there's one at Mr. Kelly's, and he was there with Mary Lou Williams. His writers were there doing things that other magazines, even Esquire, with its own hipness, was not as hip as Playboy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Hefner, because staying at his house in Chicago, he would be seen going to whatever his office was in that building. And that's what he loved to do.
Dr. Bill Cosby your touring schedule is pretty relentless. You'll be in Mesa, Arizona, November 1st. And I want to play you a piece of music, a performance of yours. And I sure hope you're going to break it out in Mesa. We'll come back and break it down, okay?
Go ahead.
Get some red and rank and a bag of stringers and some rollers and lay them wait for the summertime. And when it comes, just ooh Lord, get some ravels and can of sass and all it and cook it underneath and the hickey. Just eat them all the time. You just roll them up till they're nice and brown. Then you jump on them. 8 feet on the ground. Look at them say, ha ha ha. Oh Lord, hickey. Hickey, and then to wipe your mouth. Get that tree string from around your lip. And then get some, them ravels. Get a pound of ravels. A pound of ravels is doing all for you. And lay it under with some crackers and a roll. Get them out there and all
Jimmy Smith, not the organ player, but Jimmy Smith was playing traps on that. That's the original jam sessions with you and Quincy. I mean that, and you're still doing it today. I interviewed Cleveland Eaton, and he's telling me, well, yeah, Bill and I were real tight with Basie, and then he's coming to Miles College, and you're still doing the Hickey Burr with Cleveland he's on upright bass?
Yeah.
Unreal. Because I'll tell you something. You want to talk about LPs that are hard to find, whereas Rat On, that's hard to find. So is Hibbish Shibbish, Bunions, but the Shibish, but those the original jam session, very difficult to find anywhere. So I just want, and talk about the brainstorming that you and Quincy did, and why you dubbed it that way, because man, it's a funky album. I mean, Ray Brown's on electric bass, or is that Ron John? I don't even know what's good. What Dr. Cosby's alluding to on the LP of the first Badfoot Brown and the Bunions Funeral Marching Band, on the inside gatefold, you penned a 2,000-word essay on the funeral of Dr. Martin Luther King. The thing that it's only you were there. But the picture is you in a purple suit playing a beautiful Fender Rhodes. And I'm just wondering, did that isotopic Fender Rhodes with Cosby make it onto that album in any way, shape, or form? Why was that chosen?
I gotta go. I got a lineup of people in my dining room.
Can I just play you one more audio clip before you go? Just one more.
Okay.
Go to Bobby Hall.
At Motown, living in Detroit, in her mom's house, and I get a call from Mike Terry, who was a part of Motown. He played baritone sax on a lot of the Motown tracks. Wanted to know if I was available to come to do a show for Bill. And I said to my mom, am I? And she said yes. So that's how I was able to make that trip. The opening act, it sort of fizzled. Mm-hmm. The opening act ended up in a tragedy, going to the hospital. It was that overwhelming for the artist, the front artist. So Bill says, put her in the band, put her, and let her just be there with me. Okay. So I went from opening act, mainstream. And I ended up doing other tracks with Bill on his records, and also the theme song to what is that? Sanford and Son.
That's right. Beautiful.
Sanford and Son, yeah. That's Bobby, and I'm also playing something called The Thigh, and I'm doing they wanted me to do the ham bone. I don't know if anybody out there is old enough to understand what the ham bone is, but that's when I said, yeah, I do it. And so I got that gig too.
All right, Dr. Cosby, before you go, I just wanted to play that because, irregardless of all the stuff that's thrown around salaciously, we're here because of love. And I just was hoping you could talk about the kind of love that you showed Bobby Porter Hall and anybody else, the kind of lives you affected and the memories that might bring back to you.
Look, it doesn't make any difference. There are times when you have time, speaking of music and art, and you hear someone from someone, and you say, okay. Now,
black folks, dead or alive.
Progress.
Prettiest onions I ever seen. You got some fat, I got some lean. Come on, baby. Come on and cook. I can't. I'm short. Only got 2 guys working now. Down to explain, sweep back the train, and the 2 of them to bounce and bounce. You got the pop. I sure admire it on. Hold it steady, little girl, right there. Let me turn up your fire. Look here, baby. Girl of my dreams. Look here, baby. The box beginning to steam. Oh, yeah. It's hop and jump, hop and jump, hop and jump, hop and jump.
You've got a nice understanding, Beetle.
It's mutual.
So we just were entertained for the last hour plus by Dr. Bill Cosby, and that last track was Oscar, what's the name of that song? Just say
Sweet Sweatbacks.
Right, a Melvin Van Peebles film from the early 70s that it's a blaxploitation film, and the reason I was going to play that for Cos, we ran out of time, but Cosby actually personally wrote a $50,000 check to finish the funding for that film. So he, I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff that's thrown around about people, their personal lives and things like that. But the two things, I wasn't born during this time. I was born in 1978, well after Cosby's career was underway. But the two, aside from just being a lover of music, I connect with Bill Cosby on 2 issues. One of them is education, just believing deeply that enlightenment comes through education and knowledge and understanding. However you do that, I don't read a lot of books. Sometimes you just lead your life and you get educated. Other people do that through books or higher education. But I just feel like that is the wave of the future. And Dr. Cosby has a doctorate himself from UMass Amherst, which is where Max Roach taught. And that's one thing. The other thing I feel we have commonality about is parenthood. He's been critical of the black community at large because of the abandonment of father figures. And I can tell you that, and I can speak for a lot of people out there, the most invigorating and inspiring thing that has ever happened to me is being a father of my 2 young daughters and being involved. I'm not a perfect father. Lord knows I get yelled at every day. I'm surrounded by women. But you know what? I wouldn't trade it for the world, and I would never forgive myself for being an absentee father. The rest of this stuff really is just hyperbole and conjecture, but this was my second interview with Bill in 2 years, almost 2 years to the day, and just another tremendous amount of beautiful stuff on here. I guess we have to look for that tune, Oscar. I'm not sure exactly what tune he was referring to, or if we just have to make something up, but we do have our homework. Just what were your thoughts on the interview?
Well, I remember one tune he mentioned was Body and Soul, Coleman Hawkins. But he talked about Art Tatum, seeing Art Tatum, which kind of, I'm a piano player, so Art Tatum, at least for, the modern era, sets the bar for playing. And so for him to be talking about him and...
Explain why. Explain why he sets the bar.
So many things. I mean, his left hand, his left hand played like somebody's right hand, playing runs and his soloing. But one of the biggest reasons was he was almost blind. He was almost blind, playing a style that was better than anybody with sight, you know what I mean? And he also, he had a short career, short life. Art Tatum died, I think, before he was 40.
Younger than, was like around Charlie Parker's age?
Yeah,
it's good because if those cats had still been around, they probably would have been playing with Kenny G at some point,
Yeah, yeah.
But did that move you because, what is he getting at some kind of style that he wants us to create for him? Or is he, because he can just go on and hire, he's got an entourage. He can just find this stuff on YouTube. What was I kind of missed, I was kind of in the bubble, obviously, but it was kind of morphing out. But did you get what he was getting at? or because or does he want us to create something out of thin air?
I guess he was showing the juxtaposition between Art Tatum of the time. He died in 56. So how old was Cosby then? 2019, 21, 20?
Yeah, exactly.
And so he's kind of bringing along the heritage to us. This is something prior to Cosby. Art Tatum is, 2 or 3 generations removed, but he's the link right now. From me to Tatum was Cosby.
The link in the chain. It's one of the 4 L's. It's lineage. I just want to say I just want to give a big shout out to Jim Parisi, who's the fearless leader of Power Talk 1210 KEVT Sahuarita Tucson, for allowing me this opportunity here to do a live interview with Dr. Bill Cosby, and it's just going to keep growing from here. I've been in discussions with Joe Pesci and several other really heavy cats, artists that are known for acting or comedy, but actually are musicians themselves. And I think that is really one of those new directions. And just to, like what I'm doing today, when I talked about education before, okay, just doing this with Bill today is an education. I can walk out of here and know that I am a stronger, more enlightened, and just a better person in general, because I know that it is really about opening doors, and then when that door is open, whether you choose to walk through it and find your true nature. This is the Jake Feinberg Show on Power Talk 1210. Oscar, let's do a bump 1, and we'll see you on Saturday. Whole new show, live Saturday. You just were listening to Bill Cosby live. We'll see you Saturday at noon. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. Hybish Shibish.
A gig.
And ain't got no gig, whatever you call it. You ain't got nothing but the blues no way, baby. Either your old lady gonna do yagging you and arguing with you, telling you once you get up and do something. And go to the studio mill, you know you're gonna sing that music the blues too. So sometimes you really don't know what to do. And when you get word, all you can do is reach and grab your harmonica and try to play the blues a little bit. Here's the blues.
Here we go.
If you're in the market for a second vehicle, or if you're a first-time buyer, or if you just want a quality late-model vehicle, Zono Cars wants to earn your business. At Zono Cars, they believe in lifelong customers, so they count on repeat business, so you know they'll treat you right. Over 28 years experience in the car business, in 2 locations, 22nd just west of Cole, and right on the corner